The telecommunications revolution of the last several years means great opportunities for businesses to provide a multitude of telecommunication services to their customers. Those customers will take advantage of these services, but only if they can be accessed with ease. We at US West are confident that local number portability, or LNP, will be the most significant development in telecommunications history. LNP is a voice or circuit switch data network capability that allows a user on one switch to move to a different local service provider or switch while retaining their 10-digit telephone number. Customers will be able to port their telephone numbers to another local service provider or switch within their existing rate center. Simply put, LNP will provide an easy means by which consumers can exercise their freedom to choose those telecommunications providers best suited to their needs. The FCC has mandated that all service providers in the top 100 metropolitan statistical areas, or MSAs, must implement local number portability to provide competition for local service. 10 of the top 100 metropolitan statistical areas are located in the US West region. LNP must be implemented in these areas beginning 10/1/1997, with completion by 12/31/1998. Wireless service providers are required to provide number portability within the top 100 MSAs beginning June 30th, 1999. This video is divided into two major segments, with each segment divided into parts. The first segment is an overview of local number portability, its history, features, practical applications, and execution in US West and today's local service providers. The second half of the video is a more in-depth technical view of how LNP will be implemented. Historically, telephone numbers have been viewed as being assigned to a particular switch, owned and operated by a particular company, even though each number has been assigned to a unique end-use customer. Telephone numbers in today's environment are assigned to local service providers and offices on an NPA-NXX basis. An NPA, or numbering plan area, also known as an area code, defined as the first 3 digits of an end user's telephone number. The NXX, or prefix, make up the 4th through 6th digit of an end user's telephone number. Each area code and prefix contains a total of 10,000 different telephone numbers. Because an area code and prefix is dedicated to a particular end office, the telephone number identifies the individual subscriber, as well as the specific switch and the service provider, like US West, that handles the customer's service. With number portability, the end-use customer is provided the ability to choose a local service provider while retaining their individual telephone number. Local number portability allows end-use customers to retain their telephone number as they change from one local service provider to another within the same rate center. This also provides for limited location portability as long as and only if the end-use customer remains within the same rate center. The customer may choose to remain with their existing local service provider or change to a new provider along with the location change. The main reason for the advent of number portability was to facilitate competition for local service. Another reason was that some individual state jurisdictions were beginning to mandate number portability on a state-by-state basis. The FCC wanted to ensure that LNP would be deployed throughout the country in a uniform manner. US West is supporting the implementation of LNP within our region because it will fulfill one of the required checklist items needed to allow for entrance into providing long-distance service. Any service provider that has a minimum of 2% of the nation's access lines must make available local number portability. Local number portability is not a one-way street. By that we mean that any service provider that wishes to port numbers into their networks must be able to provide service provider portability as well. In a recent survey, business and residential customers surveyed said they would not change their local service provider if they had to change their telephone number. It is estimated that a competitive carrier could gain an additional 10% of the market at a particular price point when customers are allowed to retain their phone numbers. The long-term expected benefits of local number portability are a single local long-distance cellular service provider, a single billing provider, and lower rates. It will allow a subscriber to make local service provider decisions based on considerations of pricing, service, and features. The requirement by the FCC to make number portability a must if a company wishes to provide long-distance service means that US West risks a drop in local service revenues as more choices become available to our customers. On the other hand, we are prepared to offer competitive, reliable long-distance service and are confident that we will not only retain but expand our customer base. US West will be implementing local number portability in 10 metropolitan statistical areas. The implementation will take place in 5 phases. The current phases and the time frames have been mandated by the FCC. The start dates were provided to allow for a manageable approach to implementation. The completion dates are critical in that LMP must be available in the targeted offices and the MSAs at the time designated. The first phase of LNP will be implemented in the Minneapolis MSA beginning 10/1/97 and must be completed by 3/31/98. The second phase is made up of 2 MSAs, Phoenix and Seattle. This phase begins 1/1/98 and must be completed by 5/15/98. The third phase is made up of the Denver and Portland MSAs and begins 4/1/98 to be completed by 6/30/98. Then the Salt Lake City and Tucson MSAs are phased in, starting 7/1/98 and completed by 9/30/98. The fifth and final phase is made up of 3 metropolitan statistical areas. They are Omaha, Albuquerque, and Tacoma. The fifth phase starts 10/1/98 and must be completed by 12/31/98. However, subsequent negotiations with the FCC and the co-carriers may change the time frames associated with the implementation of the 5 phases. The FCC has concluded that the regional bell operating companies and local exchange carriers may limit deployment within their top MSAs to switches or target offices for which another carrier has made a specific request for the provision of LNP. This approach will permit the regional bell operating companies to target their resources where number portability is needed. Once US West receives a request to make an office code available for local number portability, US West will make all office codes in the switch available for LNP. Beginning 1/1/99, the regional bell operating companies and local exchange carriers must begin making a long-term LNP available region-wide when a request is received. Once a regional bell operating company or local exchange carrier receives a request by a co-carrier, they must provide LNP within a 30 to 180-day time frame, which is based on switch capabilities. The FCC has mandated that in jurisdictions where a customer requests number portability, the regional bell operating company and/or local exchange carrier serving that area must provide an interim LNP solution prior to the introduction of long-term LNP beginning 10/1/1997. 2 interim solutions are remote call forwarding and route indexing. While the advantage of using these services is that they could be implemented using existing switch-based features, there are some disadvantages as well. One disadvantage is that all calls still route to the incumbent switch first. Therefore, a ported call would require 2 10-digit telephone numbers. Another disadvantage is an increase in the trunking field would be required to either forward or route the calls to the new destination. Now let's discuss the components which facilitate the local number portability process. Please keep in mind that this is a very complicated process involving a lot of components and impacting a lot of work groups. As such, the intent of this video is an overview of LNP, and it does not take the place of nor intend to provide detailed technical vendor training. LNP utilizes the Signaling System 7 network or SS7 network for call completion. The SS7 network, in conjunction with the public and private switch telephone networks, provide transport and database services for telco subscribers. The SS7 network is comprised of the following network components: the service switching points or SSPs, the signal transfer points or STPs, the service control points SCPs, and the signaling links. The Advanced Intelligent Network or AIN will be used for long-term LNP deployment. Digital switching systems and the SS7 network form the infrastructure on which the Advanced Intelligent Network or AIN builds. The entry point into the AIN is a switch, either end-office or tandem, that has the capability to recognize that an external database needs to be accessed for additional call handling instructions. Switches use the SS7 network to request call handling instructions from a service control point. Switches can recognize triggers for incoming and outgoing calls. A trigger is a software signal in the switch. When a trigger is encountered during normal call processing, the switch recognizes that an intelligent action is required. When a switch detects a trigger, it generates a query to an SCP via the signal transfer point in order to obtain additional information on how to process the AIN call. There is a need to develop an option permitting adequate service provisioning and disconnection intervals and still provide on-time LNP service. To meet this demand, switch vendors are developing a 10-digit unconditional trigger that is attached directly to the porting in and the porting out of subscribers' numbers. This will allow for the transition of LNP service on the requested date and at the requested time. Every switch in the LNP network is assigned its own unique 10-digit telephone number called a location routing number, or LRN. LRN is a triggering and addressing method which will be used for the porting of individual telephone numbers to other service providers. Unlike today's routing scheme in which the dialed party's number identifies the terminating switch and the subscriber, the location routing number feature uses the LRN returned from the LNP service control point, or SCP, to route the call, and the called party number to complete the call to the new service provider's switch. To accomplish the porting of a telephone number, two actions must be performed. The first action, interrupting existing call processing, is done through the use of a new AIN trigger commonly referred to as the location routing number, or LRN. The second action, readdressing the call, is accomplished by launching a query to a specific LNP service control point to determine the new routing address or location routing number. In the LNP service control point, the original dialed number is associated with the LRN of the new service provider's switch. This information is used to complete the call to the dialed number. At this point, it should be pointed out that the term location routing number has two meanings when discussing local number portability. First, there is the AIN trigger called LRN, and second, there is a location routing number assigned to each service provider's switch, which is used in call completion. The LNP database contains the directory numbers of all ported subscribers and the LRN that serves them. As in Portable 800 number service, LNP will utilize a database to store the routing information for subscribers who have moved or ported to a co-carrier. The originating switch, or the network element that precedes the terminating network element, will initiate the query on calls to office codes or area codes and prefixes that have been marked as containing at least one ported number. This is called the N-1 approach to determining which carrier performs the database dip. The N-1 approach requires the originating or next to last carrier handling the call to do the database lookup. The FCC found that a long-term number portability method that uses regionally deployed databases would best serve the public interest. They also determined that such databases should be administered by one or more neutral third parties. As such, the North American Numbering Council, or NANC, was directed to recommend one or more independent non-governmental entities that are not aligned with any particular telecommunications segment to serve as a local number portability administrator or administrators. Lockheed Martin has been recommended to act in this capacity. The Council also recommended to the FCC that a Number Portability Administration Center database be established for each of the 7 original Bell operating carrier regions. Each of the regions formed a committee called the Limited Liability Corporation, or LLCs, made up of all parties interested in participating in LNP. The 7 regions are the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, Southwest, Northeast, Southeast, West Coast, and Western, which includes U.S. West and Alaska. The porting of numbers into any U.S. West switch will most likely be from one U.S. West switch to another. There will be some moves of co-carriers' initial customers to U.S. West. Porting of numbers into a switch does not represent too much of a capacity risk for digital switches. However, analog switches may experience capacity limitations as the demand for number groups increase. Selected switches may require capacity expansion and/or replacement. Location routing numbers require the upgrade of 5 signal transfer point pairs in U.S. West, as well as 824 additional signaling links, and the installation of 5 new SCP platforms, 4 for local number portability, and a pair to be used for both local number portability and for message relay service for all 14 states. The local number portability SCP pairs will be located in Minneapolis, Phoenix, Denver, and Seattle. The combined local number portability and message relay service SCP pair will be split between Denver and Phoenix. Operator switches must be modified for LRN. Because of their unique call handling properties, there are special controls associated with the call that will generate a query based on the needs of the particular call. Message Relay Service, or MRS, is a separate function that is required when LRN is implemented. MRS is used to properly direct the routing of the SS7 messages to the correct line information databases or end offices. MRS is used to perform 4 basic functions in the SS7 network. These functions are calling name delivery, class automatic callback and automatic recall, interswitch voice messaging, message waiting indication. MRS also controls ABS, or alternate billing services, functions. The ABS functions are line-based credit card validation, bill to third party, and collect call acceptance. These functions are presently routed using what is called Global Title Translations, or GTTs, translated in the STPs. When the area code and prefix is made portable, it is no longer possible for the STP to determine the correct line information database to access or end office to route the call to using existing global title translations. The MRS service control point is accessed to obtain further routing instructions. In general, it is anticipated that billing records will be generated for sale of queries, whether or not call-related, and whether or not as part of a contracted service. In addition to the sale of queries, most existing AMA records will need to identify the LRN number and perhaps the service provider of the ported number. Local number portability represents only one way in which the telecommunications industry has altered dramatically over the past several years and continues to evolve even now. U.S. West has made several adjustments to meet the needs and expectations of our customers in this rapidly changing field, and we can continue this growth and evolution only with the dedicated efforts put forward by each of you. You are U.S. West, and U.S. West is the future of telecommunications here today.
The following section is a technical explanation of the effects that local number portability will have on the U.S. West network. By FCC mandate, U.S. West is providing interim number portability solutions to areas where customers have requested LNP service. 2 interim solutions used in U.S. West are remote call forwarding and route indexing. The advantage of these options is that service would be provided using existing switch-based features. However, the disadvantages are that calls would still route to the original switch first, requiring 2 10-digit telephone numbers and trunk facilities. In addition, these options could possibly interfere with features like class and caller ID. The long-term solution for local number portability is using a location routing number, or LRN. Each switch in the local number portability network is assigned a 10-digit telephone number called a location routing number. When a customer changes to another local service provider, their telephone number will be translated in the LNP service control point. The customer's record in the LNP SCP will also contain the location routing number associated with the new co-carrier switch. The location routing number will be used to route calls to the customer's new service provider switch. To prepare the U.S. West network for LNP, a number of modifications will need to be made to the Operation Support Systems, or OSS, not to be confused with Operator Switching System, which will also experience an impact from local number portability. Every operation support system used to order, provision, bill, or maintain customer telephone numbers and lines will be impacted by number portability. This is a partial list of the present support systems that will be impacted by LNP. 2 new OSSs will be required to implement number portability. They are US West Local SMS and NetPilot. The US West Local SMS will receive area code and prefix and subscriber information from the NPAC SMS. It will also receive pre-service information from the SOAC system and transmit needed translation information to the LNP service control point. NetPilot is an OSS that has been developed by Bellcore to provide accurate and timely placement of global title translations for both LRN and MRS translations. This is essential, since when number portability is provided in an area code and prefix, all 27 STP pairs will require changes in global title translations to properly route SS7 messages. Local number portability using LRN will also make use of the Signaling System 7 network to ensure call completion. The SS7 network operates in conjunction with the switched telephone network and is comprised of 4 primary components. The components are the service switching points, the signal transfer points, the service control points, and the signaling links. A service switching point, or SSP, is a central office switching system that recognizes calls containing certain triggers which identify the need to access an external database for further call handling instructions. Signal transfer points route messages between components in the SS7 network via signal links. A service control point stores customer information used by SSPs to route calls through the network. Customer-specific information, such as the mapping of the customer's telephone number to the service provider's location routing number, are stored in what is called a call processing record in the service control point. Both service control points and signal transfer points are deployed in redundant pairs to ensure network stability should a failure occur. Signaling links carry SS7 messages between all components in the SS7 network. A node is an SSP, STP, or SCP. The messages are used for normal call setup and the passing of information between service switching points and service control points. As with other components in the SS7 networks, links are also deployed in pairs for service and network reliability. The Advanced Intelligent Network will be used for providing long-term local number portability. Before a number can be ported, several changes will need to be made in both the current carrier systems and the new carrier systems. These changes will be overseen by third-party administrators and will be coordinated through one of 7 NPACs, or Number Portability Administration Centers. Data describing an individual customer's ported service will be sent by the NPAC to all co-carrier local service management systems in the customer's metropolitan statistical area. NPAC Service Management Systems, SMS, will be the master routing databases for LNP. Interfaces between the NPAC SMSs and the co-carriers will be used to create, modify, and delete service provider data, download area code and prefix and LRN data, activate, cancel, disconnect, and modify subscription data, perform mass updates and downtime notifications, perform audit queries and repairs, as well as processing errors. Databases at the current carriers and the new carrier central offices will need to be updated along with all the co-carriers' LNP databases serving the metropolitan statistical area. The physical connection at the current carrier's office must be disconnected, and the customer must be connected at the new provider's office. Co-carriers targeting a specific area code and prefix for porting will submit a request to the owner of the area code and prefix that the area code and prefix be made available for porting. Once the owner of the area code and prefix receives the request for porting, they must determine if the request is feasible. If the request is possible, the owner of the area code and prefix will initiate an update to the local exchange routing guide, also known as the LURG, indicating that the area code and prefix is available for porting. The FCC has mandated that only requested prefixes in a switch must be available if technically feasible. However, as stated earlier, US West will make all prefixes in a targeted switch available when a request for the opening of one is received. Area code and prefixes will be available for porting within 45 days of the LURG publication. The owner of the area code and prefix should also notify the NPAC that the area code and prefix will be open for porting. In turn, the NPAC will notify all co-carriers that the area code and prefix will be opened for porting. The recipient switch owner is responsible for mapping portable numbers to routing information for local LNP areas specified by the co-carriers. Once an area code and prefix has become available for porting, individual customers may request their number be ported to a new co-carrier. The customer's current and new service provider will need to provide information to the NPAC. The customer's porting information will be passed from the NPAC SMS to the local SMSs of all service providers in the customer's rate center. The information passed includes the customer's telephone number, the LRN of the new service provider, and transfer date and time, along with other routing information. Since US West presently has limited 10-digit local dialing, most US West end offices route calls based on the 3 prefix digits. Therefore, most offices may set a 3-digit LNP trigger. However, local tandems, access tandems, and those locations with 10-digit dialing will most likely use a 6-digit area code and prefix trigger. LNP will be based on AIN technology and will conform to Belcore AIN Release 0.1 protocols. To conform to these protocols, a new AIN LNP trigger called the Location Routing Number, or LRN, has been developed. The trigger is similar to the 3610 Public Office Dialing Plan trigger presently used to provide AIN services. Use of the AIN LNP trigger to provide local number portability will result in no changes to the AIN Release 0.1 protocols, and no new TCAP parameters will be required for local number portability implementation. LRN triggers will generate unique parameters which will allow STPs to differentiate between different types of queries. This differentiation enables the STP to forward queries to the correct AIN LNP or Line Information Database SCPs. The new LRN trigger is available in the Lucent 5ESS 5E11 generic, the 1AESS 1AE13 generic, and the 4ESS 4E22.2 generic, the Nortel DMS 100 family release NA007 and DMS 10 release 410.10, and the Ericsson AXC10 release 8.0. In order for the switch to be able to handle both normal AIN call processing and LRN call processing, rules were developed and put in place. An example of a call processing rule would be that an AIN PODP trigger will always take precedence over the LRN trigger, regardless of which trigger has more specific digits. Let's try a simple example to see if we can explain this particular rule. There are two customers in the 303896 switch using AIN triggers. The first customer with telephone number 303-896-1234 subscribes to a US West AIN service called Select Call Routing. At the same time, another customer in 303-896 ports their telephone number to another service provider. The LRN trigger would be placed against 303-896. The PODP trigger would be placed against 303-896-1234. When someone in the 303-896 switch dials 303-896-1234, the switch will come across the LRN trigger on 303-896 first. But following the rules, the switch will look at the remainder of the digits dialed, 1234, to see if there are any other AIN triggers associated with the call. Since 303-896-1234 is assigned a PODP trigger, it takes precedence over the LRN trigger. The switch will format and send a query message to the service control point associated with Select Call Routing service. The 10-digit unconditional trigger will be assigned to subscriber numbers that have been ported in or out. The use of the 10-digit unconditional trigger will allow for coordinating the disconnect and new connect of the customer's service from one service provider to another. As stated earlier, US West will deploy 5 mated pairs of SCPs to provide LNP service. 4 of the pairs will be dedicated to LNP, while the 5th pair will be used for both LNP and message relay service. These MRS SCPs will route SS7 messages for third-party billing, collect call acceptance, credit card validation, calling name delivery class automatic callback, and interswitch voice messaging. During normal call processing, LNP switches can be divided into 3 categories: donor switches, originating switches, or recipient switches. A donor switch is the switch that the dialed number is ported from. The originating switch is where the call begins, and the recipient switch is the switch that the dialed number has been ported to. The potentially major impact of number portability on the entire US West network is that every interswitch, local and incoming long-distance call will require a database query to complete the call. Once LNP is deployed in the top 10 MSAs, US West expects the number of queries to exceed 5,000 per second. By comparison, presently 800 numbers are responsible for about 750 queries per second. Switches that do not have LNP SCP access capabilities will route calls to donor or tandem switches that have access capability in order to obtain proper routing information. Now that we have discussed the various parts that will be used with local number portability service, let's examine some possible switching scenarios. Where a subscriber ports their number to a different switch and the call can be connected via a direct connection, the following sequence of events takes place. Line A dials line B. The originating switch performs digit analysis on the dialed number to determine how to route the call. The analysis shows that B is in a portable area code and prefix and does not reside on the same switch. Next, the switch sends an AIN query based on the digits dialed to the LNP SCP. The LNP SCP looks up the call processing record associated with the dialed number and then sends a response back to the originating switch with the LRN of the recipient switch. The originating switch analyzes the information in the response and translates the LRN using the routing tables. In order for the switch to complete the call, the switch will format an SS7 message destined for the switch associated with the LRN. The originating switch will place the LRN in the called party number parameter. and the original dial digits are stored in the generic address parameter of the SS7 initial address message. Another parameter in the SS7 message is set to indicate a query has been done. This parameter is called the forward call indicator. By setting this parameter, the originating switch is telling the recipient switch that a database query has already been performed and that the recipient switch should complete the call using the information in the SS7 message. The call is then routed to the recipient switch based on the LRN. The recipient switch processes the contents of the SS7 message and determines that an LRN has been received, and it is the switch's location routing number. The switch replaces the LRN sent in the called party number parameter with the contents of the generic address parameter and does digit analysis on the number. Finally, the switch finds the subscriber and connects the call. Now, let's take a look at an intra-switch call to a ported telephone number. The following call flow describes what happens when a customer dials an intra-switch telephone number and the dialed telephone number has been ported to another service provider. The originating switch, which is actually the donor switch in this instance, performs normal digit analysis. When the switch determines that the dialed number is vacant or unassigned, it will initiate and then send an AIN query to the LNP-SCP, and the LNP-SCP looks up the call processing record associated with the dialed number and then sends a response back to the originating donor switch with the location routing number of the recipient switch. The originating donor switch analyzes the information in the response and translates the LRN using the routing tables. In order for the switch to complete the call, the switch will format an SS7 message destined for the switch associated with the LRN. The originating switch will place the LRN in the called party number parameter, and the original dial digits are stored in the generic address parameter of the SS7 initial address message. The dialed number is stored in the called party number parameter, and the forward call indicator is set to indicate that a query has been done. The call is then routed to the recipient switch based on the LRN. The recipient switch processes the contents of the SS7 message and determines that an LRN has been received, and it is the switch's location routing number. The switch replaces the LRN sent in the called party number parameter with the contents of the generic address parameter and does digit analysis on the number. Finally, the switch finds the subscriber and connects the call. There are some rules associated with porting telephone numbers when they are associated with various types of line or telephone number features. For example, when an ISDN customer requests a number to be ported, all addresses and sub-addresses associated with the number must also be ported. If the ported number is part of a group such as an electronic key telephone service, call appearance, call handling, call pickup, multi-line hunt groups, or call park, the number to be ported must be removed from the group or the whole group must be ported. A customer subscribing to switched packet mode bearer capability cannot port their telephone number. During mass calling events like ticket sales, phone-in contests, or disasters, call patterns may briefly exceed expected call volumes. Use of the LRN system will change the way in which mass calling events will be administered and controlled. Controls at both the switch and SCP must be applied to control overload situations. New network features are being developed to improve management of these events. It is inevitable that some customers will experience service problems in the future. Once LNP is instituted, repairs will be divided into two categories: those that are being ported into US West and those that are being ported out. When a customer calls into the US West Service Repair Bureau to initiate a demand repair, the voice response units will filter ported out telephone numbers and refer customers to their co-carrier. Demand repairs initiated by customers being ported into the US West system will be handled according to the current US West repair schedule. Proactive repairs will continue to create work packages on all telephone numbers operating on the U.S. West network. Local number portability represents only one way in which the telecommunications industry has altered dramatically over the last several years and continues to evolve even now. U.S. West has made several adjustments to meet the needs and expectations of our customers in this rapidly changing field, and we can continue this growth and evolution only with the dedicated efforts put forward by each of you. You are U.S. West, and U.S. West is the future of telecommunications here today.